Hey, it's Lara back with your horoscopes. These ones are for the new moon in Libra on October 6th and the Mars cycle that's beginning, which will be relevant for the next couple of years because this Mars cycle goes from mid October here, 2021, all the way to November 2023. So if you're listening to this video and it's past the new moon in Libra, you can still listen because you'll get info on the Mars cycle and how that's relevant to you. So I'm not feeling 100% today. I have a sore throat and a cold, courtesy of my son, who's patient zero in our house. And so bear with me if I'm sipping a lot of water and that kind of thing. But I wanted to get this to you because if you've been around here for a while, you know that I was doing these videos weekly. And last time I did a video, I announced I was going to spread that out to every 2 weeks. So covering the moon cycles, every new moon and full moon, at least for the foreseeable future, because I'm working on other things that need my attention. And so far, you know, it's been good to have that time. So thanks for your understanding with that. And if it's your first time here, welcome. I'm glad you stopped in and I hope you stick around. So please subscribe to the channel and, leave me a comment. And if you're interested in knowing when my new website launches, which is part of the reason why I'm doing these videos only every 2 weeks, then please do go over to astrologymaven.com and sign up to get on my email list. And when you do that, you'll get my free guide to working with the moon as well. So I'm crossing my fingers that I'm going to have the site launch sort of by, I don't even want to say it, by next month at some point. So it's, it's taking quite a long time for various reasons. But anyway, that's my hope. And because of that, I've backed off on readings. Because I really, that takes a lot of my bandwidth, so to speak, and I really need to focus on the website and the course that I am wanting to launch along with that. So enough about all that. We're here to talk about the new moon in Libra, right? Which is happening on October 6th. So the day this video is released at 13 degrees of Libra. Now, this is not your typical Libra new moon. Why is that? Well, mostly it's because the moon is, of course, conjunct the sun at the time of the new moon, because at all new moons, the sun and the moon come together, right, in the sky, to birth something new, to conceive of something new. But this time, the sun and the moon are also right on top of Mars. So, they're all gathered there at 13 degrees of Libra. And so, and as this is happening, Mars is meeting the sun, and this is what I was talking about, the Mars cycle. We're kind of at this point where the old Mars cycle is ending, the one we've just been going through for the last couple of years, and the new one is beginning, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the video here. And this is all transpiring in the sign of Libra, which is a cardinal air sign. Cardinal signs initiate things. They are the they sort of they have the impulse to get things started, right? To get things off the ground, to initiate. And so there's an initiation of sorts going on here at the time of this new moon. And Libra is an air sign. So that revolves around themes of, relating, how we relate to each other, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate on the bigger, picture in terms of like to institutions and all of these kinds of things, right? Power structures. It's about things like our communications and our perceptions and our the way we use our rational mind. It is about information, the way we exchange information. These are the qualities of air, right? It's it's a very sort of heady energy, and it involves the realm of the mind. Whereas, the earth signs, like we're moving out of this Mars cycle that was in Virgo, an earth sign, has to do with our sort of practical earthly reality, right? The material world, the practical things in life, our health. What's been going on for the last 2 years in the world? Right? So these kinds of things. And then the water signs relate to our emotional world, and sort of like the unseen kind of you know feeling realms. So Libra New Moon conjunct Mars. We're going to dive into that. That's not all that's happening this week. So, and there is so much happening this week. There's several aspects I'm not even mentioning here, because they seem to me not irrelevant, but less maybe obvious or important than some of the other things that are happening. So I'm going to walk you through some of that, and then we're going to take a deeper dive into the new moon and the Mars cycle. So, and of course, I'm going to take you through all of the signs at the end of the video to tell you, where this new moon and where this new Mars cycle is beginning for you. And just before I do that, I want to mention to you, of course, the whole world pretty much knows what happened recently, right? The other day with Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, and how they crashed, and there was a lot of crazy stuff going on in terms of, reports that their domain name had been stolen, was being sold, and all kinds of stuff. So it was an interesting day. But what made it super interesting to astrologers is, of course, it's Mercury retrograde. Mercury is retrograde in Libra. And not only that, right? And Mercury rules communications. Mercury is the trickster, right? The shapeshifter. And not only is Mercury retrograde in Libra, but Mercury was trine Jupiter at the time that sort of happened. Jupiter is in Aquarius, the sign of the masses. Jupiter expands, sort of blows up whatever it touches. Aquarius is that sign that deals with the group, with the collective. It's this whole notion, Mercury and Jupiter in those air signs. It's like communication with the masses via the internet, right? Is really like a very good way to kind of describe that energy. That would be one way it would definitely play out. And so, and Mercury has been in this square with Pluto as well. So there were some allegations, some things that were coming out, that were being churned up, which is oftentimes what Pluto does. It digs up the dirt, right? And so Mercury was square Pluto as well, and Mercury retrograde, which if you're not familiar with any other astrology, you've probably heard the term and maybe chuckled at it, but it's you can't make this stuff up, and it just kills me when people are like, well, astrology is not real. Okay, whatever you say. Anyway, so I thought that was funny. I'd bring that up. So on Wednesday, we've got that new moon, but on the same day as the new moon, something else is happening. We have Pluto in Capricorn stationing direct at 24 degrees specifically of Capricorn, which again is exactly square my Venus-Saturn conjunction in the 8th house, which you've heard me talk about a lot on this channel. Anyways, that's happening. And then the next day, on Thursday the 7th, right? So that's happening today because I'm recording this video a day early, but it will be released on the 6th. So on the 7th, Thursday, Venus moves out of Scorpio, Venus moves out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. and Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, not comfortable there. So this is a breath of fresh air for Venus. But she's still in Scorpio at the time of the new moon. So I'm going to mention why that's relevant in a couple of minutes. Then on the 8th, Friday, we have the Sun in Libra in the exact conjunction with Mars, right? So we've got the beginning of the new Mars cycle happening, the synodic cycle we call it, which is Mars in relation to the Sun, right? So to put it simply, so we've got that happening on Friday. And then Saturday, the 9th of October, is a kind of a big day because we have Mars in a conjunction with the Sun as well. Sorry, Mercury in a conjunction with the Sun as well, at 15 degrees Libra too, right? The middle degrees of Libra are getting some action there. And then we have Venus, who will have just moved into Sagittarius in a conjunction with the South Node at 2 degrees Sagittarius. And then we also have, of course, Mercury conjunct Mars, because Mercury and Mars are both conjunct the Sun at 15 degrees Libra. There's a lot going on in the middle degrees of Libra there. So in and around, the 9th of October. And then on the 10th, we have our next planet stationing direct, which is Saturn. Saturn will station direct at 6 degrees Aquarius. And while Saturn is stationing direct, it will be in a sextile to Venus and Sagittarius, right? So this conversation of like an easier conversation, a conversation of opportunity kind of thing. And then on the 18th, we're moving ahead to the 18th. There's, like I said, there's a few other things going on there that I'm not going to mention here. But on the 18th, Jupiter and Mercury both station direct on the same day, on October 18th. So Jupiter stations at 22 Aquarius in a trine with the Sun and Mars in Libra. And then we also have Mercury direct at 10 degrees Libra, and that will be in sextile with Venus and Sagittarius and in opposition with Chiron and Aries. So what, right? You're saying like, so what? Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, what does this all mean? So 4 planets stationing direct, right? So going from retrograde motion, where they appear to be moving backwards in the sky, right? There's that internalization of all that energy, a slowing down in relation to the matters that those planets deal with, or an internalizing of that, a going underground, if you will. And then all of a sudden, over less than 2 weeks, those planets are all going to start moving forward. So that is a major shift in energy. But the thing is before that momentum, that forward momentum starts to build, right? There's a moment where the energy is really potent, because it's like right in our faces, because the planets are stationing. And when the planets are stationing direct, they are very close to they're closest to Earth in their cycle. And so we really feel that, right? And to borrow something that ancient astrologers, Indian astrologers, a term that they used, the planets were called grahas. And you may, if you watch Achyuta Baba's channel, or Adam Alambas, however you know him by, but his name is Achyuta Baba now, and he talks about this. Like, he's been doing a series on this, actually, on the planets as grahas. And basically the concept here is that the planets grab our attention. So when the planets are stationing and they stop for that moment in time, which varies depending on the planet and how quickly or slowly they move, like Saturn standing still for almost 5 days kind of thing. So that planet really it becomes obvious to us here on Earth, right? The energy is really potent. It grabs our attention, so to speak. So here's the thing. No doubt we will see some big developments happening over this time. But if you have natal placements at the degrees of these particular stations, so I'll tell you what those are again. But if you do have placements around there, so you've got your sun, your moon, your rising, a personal planet, one of the angles, like your ascendant or your MC, on the point where the planet is stationing, you are very likely to feel this more personally, right? And so that's 24 Libra, where we'll have Pluto stationing direct, 6 Aquarius, where we'll have Saturn stationing, 22 Aquarius, where we'll have Jupiter stationing, and 10 Libra, where we'll have Mercury stationing. So it's interesting. I was talking about Libra being an air sign earlier, and the fact that the 3 of the planets that are stationing direct, 3 of the 4 of them, right, are all in air signs. So we've got 2 in Aquarius and 1 in Libra. And so that suggests that the focus is going to be really on those air qualities. Oh, there's a little birdie right outside my window on my porch. Huh. Speaking of air, interesting. So, those, like, I think we may see some developments regarding things like communication, our reasoning, intellectual stuff, information, travel, even things involving the mind, on those air qualities. So look to the Aquarius area of your chart there, specifically for some forward momentum, because, Saturn and Jupiter have both been retrograde, right, in Aquarius, and now they're both stationing direct in that same part of the chart. So there will be a shift there, some reversals, some forward momentum, building, slowly and then more rapidly as the planets pick up speed. But what I want to remind you of is that there is one more exact hit of that Saturn-Uranus square, which is on December 24th. So if, Christmas Eve, if that's something that you celebrate. But the thing about this is this Saturn-Uranus story, it's not new to us anymore. We know, and I've done videos on this. You can go back on the channel and watch those. But by now we're sort of familiar with what this is all about, right? It is this tension between the old and the new, between the structures and what needs to change, between the tried and true and the tradition and the rebellion against that. So, and we're all experiencing this, somewhere in our lives. And I, like I said, I've mentioned that in past videos, so you can go back and have a watch if you want. But I just wanted to remind you of that, because yes, there will be forward momentum in the Aquarius house in our chart, but we'll also have that Saturn-Uranus square coming. And the truth is that I think it's February of 2022. No, maybe it's the fall of 2022. I don't have the date right here, but those 2 planets, Saturn and Uranus, are going to be in close proximity to each other. Like, they're not going to come back into an exact square, but they're going to be close. So, the story's not over yet, but by the end of this year, we're really moving past the crescendo, I think, if you will. So I think that's about all I have to say in terms of those bits and pieces. And now I want to focus more on the new moon and bring that Mars cycle into the picture. One of the things I do want to mention to you is, talking about getting the website out and this course. And one of the reasons I'm excited about this is because I really want people to be able to do this for themselves. I want you to be able to, like, first of all, know, like, well, you know, where can I get my birth chart? When I'm looking at this, what am I even looking at? Like, what do you, some people don't even know what is a birth chart, right? What really is it? Where did it come from? What, um, and, and, you know, like what you can do with that for yourself, because you know yourself best. And so if you learn this language of astrology, um, then you can learn to apply that to your own self and what you know to be true for you, right? Not, you don't have to take my word for it. Um, and the one of the things is that, like in my own experience and from a lot of people that I know, and I'm in various groups, astrology related groups and that kind of thing, like sometimes people are having conversations or they're asking questions in these groups, or they're bringing up their, you know, they're posting things or what have you, and it's coming from a place of misinformation a lot of the times, or like lack of clarity, like maybe they got a, you know, they, like a little a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, as they say, right? So maybe, you know, they've gone onto some site and gotten their birth chart, but did they, like, what, you know, what information did they put in there? What are they looking at? Did they use, what house system are they using? Is that like, it's so, anyways, I'd like to I really want to be able to kind of take some of this confusion and the guesswork out of it for you. So, you know, it's one of the reasons I'm trying to get these other things done so that I can be of more help, or at least that's the way I see it, to you. All right, so enough about that. Let's talk about the new moon. I mentioned to you that the new moon is ruled by Venus, right? Because Venus is the ruler of Libra, also rules Taurus. But in this case, the new moon is in Libra. So, and that Venus is at the time of the new moon in Scorpio. So she's in the sign of her fall or her exile, right? In detriment, meaning that she's not comfortable there. She's far from home, out of her comfort zone, and feeling a little worn out, kind of thing. Not really fully able, you know, doesn't have all her mojo, all its mojo. I'm trying to get away from using pronouns, but I've explained to you before that sometimes it's just rolls off the tongue more easily, and when I do that, I'm speaking more in relation to the actual qualities of masculine and feminine, not to gender. So just so you know that. Anyway, the thing is, so Venus is still going to be in Scorpio at the time of this new moon, but right after that, as I mentioned to you, like the next day, Venus moves out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius, where, you know, it has no special dignity in particular, but is at least not debilitated. So that's good. And Venus is going to go into a retrograde, but that's not until December. So we won't talk about that right now. So Venus in, debility. And we also have Mars, who's very involved in this new moon in the same situation, because Venus is in Mars's sign. In traditional astrology, Mars ruled Scorpio rules Scorpio, and we've got Mars in Venus's sign, right? Because Venus rules Libra. So I mentioned this in a past video. It's like they did like an apartment swap or something like that, right? In that movie, The Holiday, that Christmas movie, where these two women like swap houses, and they are very, very different people, and their houses reflect that and where they live and that kind of thing. And so it's hard for them to kind of get used to it at first, right? So it's kind of like that. That's been going on with Mars and Libra. So on the one hand, there's this sort of like neutralization that happens because they are in each other's signs, but it's also a bit frustrating. Like the two planets are both out of their comfort zones. And there's this sort of like, I liken it to like there's a sort of longing for home because they're so far away from home. But like, it's almost like they've been away for so long they don't even remember what home will look like when they return, because there's been somebody living there that's been sort of completely opposite to us, right? Staying in our space. And so if you think about this, I think this is really reflective of where we are at right now, all of us collectively, having been through the last, almost 2 years of this pandemic and everything else that's gone on. And it's still very, very much going on as we speak. And we are very much out of our comfort zones. And I think a lot of us are starting to realize, like, or question, like, what does home, right? Whatever. And home, by home, I mean, like, I don't necessarily mean your literal home, although it could be that, but that sense of like feeling at home in the world, or among the people that are, you would consider family. Like, it looks very different for many of us than it did a couple of years ago, right? When this new Mars, the Mars cycle that we're currently in, started. And so we're kind of questioning that, and we're kind of trying to figure it out, right? What does home look like? Really, I don't even really remember what life was like on many levels back then. So there is this sense of sort of having to come to a compromise in the end. And there are not necessarily any major winners, in this scenario, but it's like we must do what we have to do in order to move forward and actually get anywhere. So I just want to show you the chart before I ramble on any further. Here it is. And here is all this pileup going on here in Libra, as you can see, right? We've got Mercury retrograde, we've got Mars, we've got the sun and the moon all at 13 degrees. And Mercury's not too far off at 20 degrees there. And then we have an interesting thing I'm going to talk about in a second. Uranus and Taurus also at 13 degrees, making an exact aspect to this new moon, right? And to Mars, an aspect called an inconjunct. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. And there we have Jupiter up there trining Mercury, right? At 22 degrees Aquarius, about to station direct. Saturn at 6 degrees, about to station direct. Pluto at 24 Capricorn, about to station direct. There's Venus at the time of this new moon, about to move on out into Sagittarius. So, that's what's going on here. And of course, we've got Aries in a square to Pluto, grinding away there, right? And we've talked about that before. So I'm not going to address that here. So I showed you that not only are Mars, the sun, and the moon all piled up there at 13 degrees Libra, but we've got Uranus and Taurus, right, at 13 degrees as well, in what we call an inconjunct, which is this conversation between the two, or in this case, more than two planets involved, where there's nothing in common there. So Taurus is a fixed earth sign. Libra is a cardinal air sign. They don't have anything in common. They don't see eye to eye, right? So it's like they're looking at the world through a completely different lens. But somehow, so this is lending to this feeling of potential sort of frustration or prickliness at the time of this new moon. And it's like they don't have any common ground, but they have to find some in order to, like, there has to be some concessions, right? There have to be some adjustments. An inconjunct is very much an aspect where adjustments need to be made. it's like an itch that can't be scratched, and we might have to come to terms with the fact that some itches are going to have to be left unscratched for the time being anyways. um and the other thing about this is there has to be a willingness to admit that we all have blind spots. um and sometimes those blind spots need to be pointed out to us, and when that happens, it's often our reaction, our knee-jerk reaction, to get defensive about that. Hello. I've, I will admit that that's definitely been my MO in the past, but I'm really at a place now where I'm really, really trying to not have that be my first reaction. Right? If somebody calls me out, I try to think, is there an element of truth to this? What might I not be seeing? Or, what did I ignore, even unconsciously, or what did I miss? Or, is the way this person is perceiving this actually, is there a grain of truth to it? This kind of thing. So my point is that we don't know what we don't know. And so we have to be willing to admit what we don't know and be open to having that pointed out to us. Right? And so, and this can be difficult when we're talking about our convictions and certain things like that. So there's this idea here where we've got to work through the tension in order to make headway, and it's not necessarily going to be comfortable. Excuse me. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Mars cycle and how it relates. I mentioned to you that Mars meeting up with the Sun sort of signifies, well, it's the end of Mars's journey with the Sun in one sign, which was Virgo, and now it's beginning this new cycle. And in this case, that new cycle begins in Libra, right? So some astrologers have spoken about this, the Mars cycle, as relating to that idea of the hero's journey, right? Or the heroine's journey. Joseph Campbell coined the term the hero's journey. And then there was a woman whose name escapes me, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Mark, starts with an M. I can't remember. Murdoch might be her last name. But anyways, she took that. She was a Jungian psychologist, I think, and then she turned it into, through the lens of a more sort of feminine perspective. But nevertheless, the Mars cycle can very much signify or reflect this idea of the hero or the heroine's journey. So we've been on this journey for the last couple of years. The last Mars cycle began, just have my notes here, that's why I keep looking down, with the Sun conjunct Mars in Virgo on September 2nd of 2019. So that's when this Mars cycle that we're currently in started. And that, when we're talking about like mundane astrology or the collective, right? Virgo is very much a sign that relates to health in many ways. Purity, microbes, these kinds of things, right? And Mars was kind of waging war there in a sense. So this hero's journey in some ways for Mars is kind of, coming to this close. Now, that's not to say, I am not suggesting like we're at the end, like, the new Mars cycle is going to begin and bye-bye pandemic. I'm not saying that. There are other elements involved here too, but it's likely that we will begin a new heroine's journey or hero's journey well, we will begin a new journey at the time of this conjunction, right? In mid-October, like I was saying, it's exact on and around, what did I say to you? Like the 9th, right? Did I say that? Anyway, pardon me. So that's when this new journey begins. And that will last until November of 2023, like I mentioned. So collectively, this will involve Mars type energy activity surrounding Libra themes, right? So, and remember, Mars is not comfortable in Libra. So Libra wants balance, harmony, justice, equality, diplomacy, a feeling of like that feeling of all things in their place, right? But Mars, on the other hand, Mars wants what it wants, and it wants it now, kind of thing. And it doesn't object to running out on the battlefield to get what it wants. So that's kind of Mars's MO, right? So Mars is willing to take up arms, kind of thing. And so, you know, and I don't necessarily mean that literally, but essentially we're looking here for what we're looking at, I think, is themes of fighting for justice and equality are going to be a big part of this hero's journey that, you know, begins around now and lasts until November 2023. So on a positive note, Mars can give us the drive and the stamina and the courage, you know, and the passion to really keep going when the going gets tough. And so that's a good thing that we can use to our benefit. But Mars feels a little bit stifled because Mars, you know, like the idea here is for us to reach some kind of agreement or justice or equitable kind of distribution. But Mars doesn't, you know, Mars doesn't want to be the diplomat. Mars wants to ride out, you know, guns a-blazing kind of thing. And so it's going to be tricky, right? It's going to be tricky, and it's going to require some effort, definitely. So all of this that I've been saying to you is really suggesting that this is not an easy sailing new moon. It's a new moon where we may literally have to fight for the new beginnings, right? Because it is a new moon that we intend or envision. We may literally have to, or figuratively, and when I say fight, I'm not necessarily talking about, you know, fisticuffs kind of thing. I'm not, but we may really have to put some effort and some drive into what we intend or what we envision. In terms of those Libra themes that I was mentioning to you, you know, and for us personally, on a personal level, what does this mean? Well, we might have to fight for what we want, right? The Mars aspect in the Libra area of life. What are we trying to accomplish in the house that Libra sits for us? You know, where have we maybe been feeling like we've been kind of like grinding away there and not getting very far? Well, Mars is coming in there into that Libra house and saying, here I am to help you go after what you want and to win the battle, so to speak here, right? But it is in Libra. So there has to be an element of what's just, what's equal, what's in integrity, these kinds of things. So, you know, we have to sort of answer the call to go back to that notion of the hero's or the heroine's journey and grab our metaphorical swords kind of thing, you know, and really actually, like when we're talking about that, those swords, this isn't an air sign. Those swords may be pens or our laptop keyboard or our words or our community sort of involvement or education, you know, or any other number of things that fall under that category of you know, Libra or the qualities of air. We are talking, like I said, about a shift here for Mars from the earthly energy, right, of Virgo, that earthy, practical, material, those themes to the realm of air. So, you know, just to leave you with a thought, and before I run through the signs, it seems to me that the most effective heroes and heroines are the ones who have the most positive impact, and the ones who we tend to admire the most, right? Like I'm going to use Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who comes to mind, probably because, you know, of her role, and the fact that this is Libra, right? Whose symbols are the scales of justice, the scales of balance, the scales of, you know, even commerce, but the scales of justice, right? You may have seen, like, there was a meme going around on social media with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Somebody had put her on the justice card in the tarot. So that's what came to mind right now. So people like that, right? The most sort of renowned heroes, they have integrity, they have honor, they have a sense of justice and compassion and humaneness about them. And so I think ultimately that's what we're trying to harness here. So if you have key points or placements at around the 13 degrees of Libra mark, give or take 3, even 5 degrees on either side of that, or the other cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn, this will be a more sort of personal, potent new moon for you. So, you know, if you know your chart, again, this is why I want you to know your chart. Then if you know your chart, have a look and see, do you have anything going on around those degrees of Libra? Okay, so, and I'll be back to talk to you about the Aries full moon, right? Which is the next lunar event that we're having on October 20th. So I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. But let's run through the signs here and speak to the house that the Libra New Moon and the new Mars cycle are happening in for you. So remember, a new moon, a moon cycle, right? These new moon sort of intentions are being seeded here, and then they will grow over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see some sort of culmination of that, large or small, at the time of the next full moon, which is in Aries. But on a more sort of long-term scale, we will see the culmination of things that begin now in 6 months from now, when we have the Libra full moon. So, you know, you can think about it like that. But then when we're talking about the Mars cycle, like I was saying, and just to remind you one more time, when we look at the Mars cycle, it's like the Mars cycle is starting, the new Mars cycle is starting in Libra now, but this takes us right through to November, to the fall of 2023. Okay, so this is relevant for that. So let's take it through the signs, and let's begin with Libra. And we are talking first and foremost, listening for your rising sign, right, or your ascendant. And then also listen for your sun and your moon sign. But these general horoscopes will be more relevant for ascendant signs, right? If you're listening for your rising sign. So we're going to start with Libra. Libra, for you, wow, lots of big stuff going on in your sign. And if you're a Libra rising, in your first house, right? Which speaks to themes of you, of your physical body, of your physical vitality. It speaks to, you know, even your appearance. It speaks to your personality and your approach to the world, right? Like how you come at the world is very much first house related, and how the world perceives you as well. So, you know, I often say like the first house is all about you. So it can kind of, it can impact everything really, when we're talking about first house transits. So, and it is also like the relationship you have to yourself very much. So there are some new beginnings here, big new beginnings, new beginnings that, you know, like I was saying, you're encouraged to use those Mars energies for good, right? To if there's been something going on with you, like let's just take an example. For example, your physical vitality sort of thing, your health in some way. This may be a time when you are fighting some sort of metaphorical battle there. And you're going on some sort of hero's journey, right? And I mean, that doesn't have to be some big dramatic event. Could it be in some scenarios? For sure. But it could be something as simple as like, I'm going to start working out. Mars in the first house would be a good use of this energy, right? To bring a greater sense of balance to my being. So Mars in Libra in the first house. So, you know, that's one way that this could play out. And that's one sort of way you could intend for this to play out, right? You're setting those intentions. This could even be things like, you know, Mars is associated with things like surgeons and you know, Mars cuts kind of thing. And so, I mean, this can even be things like, you know, getting piercings or doing some kind of, or tattoos, right? Mars in Libra very much reads like that to me. You know, decorating your body using like a needle, that's Mars and Libra in the first house. So something along those lines. You know, it could be some sort of even corrective surgery in some way, shape, or form. It could be, it makes me think of, you know, like I was saying, Mars is associated with like cutting. So something that you, even like some sort of art form that involves that. You know, I have a really good friend who's owns a stonemasonry company, and so like, and some of the work they do is really like aesthetically, you know, beautiful. And it involves like chipping away at the stone, you know, Mars and Libra. You know, so you know, maybe you're taking up that craft, or trying to think of some other examples here. There could be like something that comes to mind is like a fight for self, almost like where you are, you know, it's like you are fighting. It could be like fighting for equality for yourself in some way in life, whether you know, and that can play out in so many different scenarios, right? So I won't even begin to list examples there. I'm sure you can imagine. It could be you know, in all kinds of ways. So anyway, I think that gives you, I said a lot in the introduction, and please tell me you listen to that because just jumping to this little snippet is not going to give you everything that you need, right? It's not going to give you the context. So, and just take note of what's happening for you around this time and what seeds, like what sort of call to action are you feeling right now? Because that's Mars, right? Mars is like kind of that, for using that hero's or heroine's journey as a metaphor, Mars is sort of like that call to action. So think about that, and how that's related to your own life. All right, so that's for you, Libra. I spent a little extra time there because, this is kind of about you right now. And I'm going to move on to Virgo now. So Virgo, for you, this is happening in your second house. We've got the Libra New Moon there, conjunct Mars, right? And the new Mars cycle beginning. And so this has to do with your finances. Essentially, the second house is very much about your money, the money you make from your skills and talents, how you get your basic needs met in the world, how you value yourself and what you place value on, your personal resources. So very much, in this day and age, we think of that as money, but it can also be time and energy and material possessions as well. Excuse me. And so, this is an opportunity here to plant some new seeds in this area of life, that ultimately, like there's a sense of craving a greater sense of balance in relation to these second house themes and justice and fairness. But there may have to be a bit of a hero's journey or a heroine's journey that you go on in order to claim that or to reach that goal, right? Because we have the new Mars cycle starting in this house for you in Libra. And so the battle that you are fighting, so to speak, is in relation to these second house themes. But keep in mind, Mars, like, if it's all about how we utilize the energy, right? And how sort of aware we are of what's going on for us. Now, that's not to say, like, of course, things happen that are beyond our control. That's life. But we still have some say in matters. And, so my point is that if you harness that energy of Mars in a productive way, there can be great gains made here in that area of life, right? And so there can be a lot of focus and energy expended in terms of, like getting paid what you're worth, making more money, having your, it could revolve around your values as well, your sort of core values and sense of worth. So, and about like how you get your basic needs met in life, really. So, but Mars is there, like Mars is moving out, or the Mars cycle is ending, right? So the Mars cycle that began in your sign, Virgo, is now waning. So that hero's or heroine's journey that was taking place for Virgo risings in your first house is waning now. It's coming to a close. So, and it's, Mars is asking you to kind of take up the battle in the second house now. So, this can play out again in many kinds of ways that I've already sort of mentioned to you. And I really hope that you listen to the introduction, because it's going to give you the context for all of this. All right, so we're going to move on to Leo now. And so Leo, for you, this is happening in your third house. We've got the new moon, right? The new moon in Libra happening there, and we have the new Mars cycle beginning there in that third house of communications, of your immediate environment, and the people in it. So this can involve people like your siblings or cousins or community members or teammates, peers, workmates, that kind of thing. This is very much about information exchanged in your daily communications. Like I said, this can be this can revolve around education and learning in some way. This can even be about things like your short commutes or short distance travel. This can involve marketing and commerce and those sorts of themes as well, right? It's a very busy house, the third house. And so this is where the new moon is happening for you, and that conjunction with Mars and the beginning of the new Mars cycle. So there is this sense of beginning the hero's journey or the heroine's journey in relation to those third house themes for you. So the seeds of intention that you're planting there, you want to start something new, like, I don't know, related to one of those third house themes. Like you want to start a podcast. You want to, I'm thinking of my husband who's a Leo rising and who I've been bugging to start a podcast, and many other people have been too for a long time. Or you've got some kind of like, educational sort of like project that you're involved with, or marketing or communications in some way, or some kind of sibling situation where you are you have intentions for something transpiring here, to grow something, right? But it's going to take work. Mars is beginning a new cycle there. Mars is conjunct this new moon. It's going to take work. And it may require some, some adjustments and some, I was talking about Uranus and Taurus in conjunct this new moon. So like some willing to see some blind spots there, willingness, right? Some willingness to admit that you don't know what you don't know, and be willing to learn it, maybe. It could be, it could even be like taking in a bit of a different direction. There could be a lot of activity and action, Mars, that involves things like siblings or your community or those sorts of third house themes, right? With Mars there. So Mars, nevertheless, ultimately is lending you the drive and the passion to fight this battle, whatever it is, right? So in that third house. So there is the potential for getting what you want here, but it's likely that it's going to take some effort. Okay. We're going to move on to Cancer now. So Cancer, for you, this is happening in your fourth house. So you have this new moon in Libra there, and you have Mars beginning a new cycle there, as we talked about in the introduction. And so there is something new transpiring, right? Something new being conceived of, or seeds that you're planting, new intentions that you have, or that the universe has for you, in relation to home, family, roots, place of living, real estate, parents, these kinds of themes. And there may be a need to put a lot of effort in here, to take up the battle, so to speak. And it doesn't mean, when I keep saying that, it's like, I'm not talking like there doesn't need to be aggression involved, but there may need to be some assertiveness when Mars, is sitting there involved in this new moon. Some passion, some drive. This could be, this new moon in terms of the fourth house and Mars's presence there, could be a lot of activity on the home front. There's a lot going on maybe for you, in relation to home and family and those kinds of things. Could be quite literally, like you're doing renos or something, you're buying a new house, or it could be something involving like family diplomacy. Here we are going into, the the so-called holiday season where we've got Thanksgiving coming, and various other, you know, holidays. And so it could be there's a lot of activity going on around those things, and there may be a need, right? Libra's there, a need and a desire for some balance and some equality and some justice and some nice sort of aesthetic and some pleasant relationship and that kind of thing. And then, but Mars may be a bit of a fly in the ointment. But again, it can lend you the sort of drive that can allow you to really get things done in this area of life as well. So please listen to the introduction for the context, right? Because otherwise, it's not going to make as much, it won't have as much meaning to you. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice here. We're going to move on to Gemini now. Gemini, this new moon and the new Mars cycle is happening in your 5th house. So for you, this is a new beginning in the 5th house. It has something to do with your children, if you have them, or children in general, or parenting, or, issues around childbirth or anything like that, pregnancy. Those are all potentials. It could also have to do with things like what sparks joy for you, to use a phrase, like meaning, how do you have fun in life? What brings you pleasure? That's all about the 5th house. What are the hobbies and special interests you have? Very much about your creative sort of self-expression as well. So any creative projects or things like that. These are all 5th house themes, right? And so there's something new happening here. Whether that be you're intending it or the universe is intending it for you, but there are new seeds being planted and a new beginning, and Mars is involved, and we've got, the new Mars cycle starting in this house. So a lot of action and activity and drive and potentially combativeness, hopefully not, but it all depends kind of thing with Mars there. A drive for some sort of equality or fairness around these themes, or balance around these 5th house themes. It can allow you to, as I was saying, Mars can give you the drive and the courage and all of that to do what needs to be done and what you want to do. You just have to be mindful of not taking it to the point of like aggression, right? But it may be assertiveness. Like it may be things like, let's just give you a couple of real life examples here. There's so many things popping into my head. For one example, this will be relevant to very few people, but it could be something like in vitro fertilization. It could be, which is like a sort of a Mars procedure, right? In Libra in the 5th house, that allows you, if there's been like a bit of a challenge getting pregnant, for example, it might be something that is being resorted to. It could be, there's a lot of activity going on that has to do with children, with your kids. It could just be that it's a very busy time for your kids in general. It could be that your kids are engaged in some sort of Martian activities like sports, or it could be, hopefully not, like fighting with kids or among kids. It could be, fighting for your joy in a sense in the 5th house too, in some way, like really putting some effort into doing things that bring you pleasure, right? It's kind of like, I'm going to take up the fight here to make sure I have more fun in my life, right? And there may be some like activity involved where you start doing something. This is so ridiculous. These are the things that come in my mind. All I can think about right now is fencing. Mars in Libra in the 5th house. Maybe you're going to take up fencing. I don't know. It's possible for some people, right? But that's the image that came to mind there. But that kind of an activity anyway. So that gives you something to chew on there, and definitely listen to the introduction, Gemini, okay, for the context. So I'm going to move to Taurus now, where we have this new moon and the new Mars cycle beginning in your 6th house. So for you, Taurus, you know, the seeds of intention sort of being planted here, whether they be by you or the universe kind of thing, are intending for something new to transpire in your 6th house, which has to do with things like your daily struggle kind of thing, the daily grind, you know, the work you do on the day to day, whether that be paid or unpaid. It can have to do with how you are in service. It can have to do with your health, your physical kind of, you know, health, like, and the routines that impact that. It can have to do with pets in the 6th house as well. So, you know, the 6th house is a house that generally, oftentimes, that there's a lot of hard work involved in whatever transpires in the 6th house. And so, and sometimes it can feel like, you know, the things you have to do, even though you don't really want to do them, but they have to get done almost, can be 6th house related as well. So for you, something new about your daily routine, say, or your work, your daily work life is beginning or wants to be initiated here. Remember, I said this new moon can feel very much like an initiation of sorts, right? With Mars being present there. So something being initiated there. And in the longer term, with Mars beginning a new cycle there, it can feel like a bit of a battle, or you can be taking up the charge in some way, shape, or form. Or Mars can lend you the power, the drive, the will, the passion to do what needs doing, right, in this area of life. And so, again, this can be things like, you know, I mean, there could be things like some minor procedures, you know, that like health related things that have to be taken care of. It could be that you're just really, really starting a very busy period in your daily work. There's just a lot of things to take care of, or a lot of work comes in, which, you know, in some ways is not a bad thing, but and Mars there is like making you feel up for the challenge, so that's good. Hopefully it's not things like, you know, aggression in the workplace, in your daily work, or combativeness there. It may be, you know, Mars there allowing you to be more assertive at work, potentially, or more assertive with your health needs, potentially. There could be, like, you know, a lot of activity around pets, even with Mars there present at the time of this new moon. But there's something like, there's a, you know, because this is happening in Libra, there is something revolving around the need for more balance, or more justice, equality, these kinds of things, right? In relation to those 6th house themes as well. So listening to the introduction, where a lot was said, is going to really give you more to go on, Taurus, in terms of the bigger picture, you know, and the nuances involved here. So I really hope that you did listen to the intro, and if you didn't, then It would be good to go back and do that. And so that's what's going on for you at the time of this new moon and with the new Mars cycle that's going to last until November 2023 in that house. So I'm going to move on to Aries now, where we have this new moon and the new Mars cycle beginning in your 7th house, Aries. So there is a whole new cycle happening here in your area of relationships, right? So one-to-one relationships is the 7th house. Oftentimes this is like significant others. But it could also be people like business associates, business partners, people that you're in contractual agreements with. Just that the whole idea of contracts and agreements in general is very 7th house. But personal relationships. So it can even be close friends and family members, right? That you're in one-to-one relationship with. So this is the area of life that is being impacted by this new moon and by this new Mars cycle. So there are some seeds of intention being planted here, something you desire to grow or something the universe has intended for you. And so whatever this is likely to require or to involve this potent, passionate, driven energy of Mars. So how could this play out? You could meet somebody that's very Martian in nature, right? Like an athlete, or somebody who is, sort of more masculine, or that is combative even, or very assertive. So that could be possible. You can enter into a partnership in some way, shape, or form with somebody like that. But this is in Libra, so there could be this excuse me, like a fight for equality in a relationship. There could be like a lot of sort of passion going on in relationship. There could be it could be you asserting yourself more in a relationship, or another person asserting themselves towards you. Maybe it's just like something like you are wanting a relationship, and so you're kind of gonna really put your focus there, and you're driven to take action to make that happen, potentially, right? Whether that be just getting yourself out there more, or doing something, where you may meet somebody like that may be like an activity, like a Mars-like activity, that where you may meet somebody, as well, some kind of sporting situation or something physical, or that kind of thing. Somebody who's in the military, I know that's like that can be very Mars related as well. So I think that gives you definitely enough to go on, but for sure listen to the introduction, okay, Aries, because it has like all the details there that will fill in the blanks for you. That I can't just speak to every sign about all the details, so that's why I do the intro. So don't skip that for sure. And I'm going to move on to Pisces now, where we have this new moon and the new Mars cycle beginning for you in the 8th house. So, excuse me, for you, Pisces, the new seeds of intention that are being planted, whether they be by you or, the universe, have to do with 8th house themes of your entanglements with other people, is the way I like to talk about the 8th house. And that's because it covers all the bases sort of things, right? So the 8th house speaks oftentimes to our, to other people's money and our connection to that. So other people's resources, right? It can also be time and energy, other people's time and energy, but oftentimes it's money. So it can be our partner's money. It can be, money that comes in or goes out through wills, inheritance, taxes, mortgages, loans, credit, bursaries, scholarships, these kinds of things. Very much an eighth house theme. It can also be our intimate sort of connections with other people, and our psychological depths, right? Our psychological wounding and healing that often is very connected to our entanglements with other people. The eighth house is very much about this whole notion of like death and rebirth. So, which is why sometimes it gets called the house of transformation. So this is what's going on. This is where all of this is going on for you. So there are new seeds being planted here, new seeds of intention. And Mars is there sort of taking up the battle. So what could this look like? This could be you working really hard to get out of debt, for example. Mars is giving you the will, the drive, the passion to take care of business there. This could be, hopefully not, but something like arguments over wills and inheritance and those kinds of things, and the equality and the fairness and that kind of thing around, surrounding that. It could be it could be, let's take it in a completely different direction. You sort of fighting the battle, so to speak, to deal with your inner kind of, your psychological kind of wounds. So could be, maybe you've realized that there's some baggage there that needs dealing with. And so Mars is giving you the drive to take care of that, right? To seek out the professional help or whatever, what have you, to deal with that. For very few people, like, I haven't said this in a while, but I am not one to just give you the sunshine and rainbows version of everything, because that's not life. So for some people, if I'm being truthful, this could have to do with, some sort of like, loss in the family, like a death in the family, not even necessarily in the family, but it could be like, an older relative or something like that. And then there's a lot of activity around that, right? Or as a result of that. Now that's going to apply to like just a few people kind of thing. So don't panic when I say that. What else could it be? Okay, one last example, and again, to take it in a different direction. It could have something to do with you working really hard, sort of in this realm of other people's money. Like, you could be somebody who works with other people's money as an investor or something like that. And this could be a really busy period for you, for example, or you're really kind of going for it with Mars there, right? And you've set some intentions to make some gains there. So I'll leave you with that. And I hope that gives you enough to go on. Definitely listen to the introduction for the context. Otherwise that just doesn't kind of make a whole lot of sense without all the other pieces. All right, moving on to Aquarius now. Aquarius, for you, this new moon and this new Mars cycle are happening in your 9th house. Libra sits in the 9th house for you. So this is all about new beginnings, new intentions, new seeds being planted in the realm of things like how you view the world, your, even things like your sort of political views or your religious views, or it could be very much about foreign travel or people that you learn from who are different from you. foreign cultures. It can have to do with higher learning. So some kind of like study that's going on, college, university, or it doesn't have to be that, but some other kind of program. It could have to do with a publishing thing for some folks. But the ninth house in a phrase is all about expanding our horizons. I honestly think that it's been, I don't know how many times now. I'm pretty sure the last time I did a video 2 weeks ago, the neighbor was mowing his lawn, or my lawn as well. And it's, obviously so appreciated, but hilarious coincidence. So I don't know if you can hear that or not. So anyway, but really very, very appreciated that he does that. So, where was I? Oh yeah. Okay. So I was talking to Aquarius. So Aquarius and the fact that the ninth house is about ultimately expanding our horizons, right? And so, there are new seeds of intention being planted here by you or by the universe, right? That will grow over the next 2 weeks, over the next 6 months. But then there's also this piece of the Mars cycle where Mars is coming in there there's a call to action. Mars is calling you to take action in this area of life and to go on this journey that's going to last until November 2023. So where are you being called in relation to these ninth house themes? So it could be like, let's give some practical examples. Mars conjunct this new moon here. It's like there could be a lot of activity that goes on in terms of travel, long distance travel, or a real desire to do that, because Mars is there and you're really kind of like putting a lot of time and energy and effort into making that happen. That could be a real passion for you over the next little while. It could also be something that you're learning, that you're gonna just throw yourself into very passionately. It could involve a lot of hard work. This could be you, if you've been sort of holding back in terms of what you think about certain things and your personal worldview and those sorts of things. It could be you taking up the charge there in some way and having your say. It could be some kind of a sort of battle that goes on in terms of a higher learning environment. And again, I've spoken about what's gone on with the university here over the last little while, and that's the example that comes to mind. Some sort of fight over higher education in some way. Or you're starting maybe you're somebody who's starting a program, and it's gonna, like I was saying, it's gonna require a lot of drive and a lot of work, right? And a lot of maybe even courage with Mars there. But Mars is giving you that. Mars is lending that to you in that area of life. Okay, so that's for you, Aquarius. I said a lot more in the intro, so don't skip that. Definitely listen to it so you can get all the context. And next I'm going to move on to Capricorn. Capricorn, for you, this new moon and this new Mars cycle is happening in your 10th house. So this is a very public house, right? This is the house that has to do with your public reputation, your work, sort of not so much your daily, what you do on the day-to-day. That's more 6th house. This is about your overall, your career and your career ambitions. It's about the legacy you wish to leave, the ancestor you want to be, kind of thing. It has to do with your public life in a very, in broad terms. It has to do with authority and authority figures and your relationship to authority, including your own authority. So these are all themes being triggered at this new moon. So there's something new getting off the ground here, something new being initiated by you or by, the universe and the plans it has, that we may or may not be privy to. So in this 10th house area, and Mars is there calling you on a quest, right? The heroine's or the hero's journey in this area of life, beginning now and moving through to November 2023. So it's a call to action in this area of life for you. It may require, you may be really driven like in career matters, or really driven in public life in some way, or really sort of driven in terms of like a legacy project of sorts. You could be, here's another way this could play out. It could be like with Mars in the 10th house, you could be seen as being more aggressive publicly, or you could assert yourself more publicly, right? Ideally, if that's something that you're hesitant to do, Mars can lend you that ability there. It could be a very like, Mars in the 10th house could be like a public fight in some way for equality, for justice, for peace, for restoring balance. So, just trying to think if there's anything else. I really think that that's good to go on, Capricorn. And if you listen to the introduction, you'll get all the other details that will help this make more sense. So I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to move on to Sagittarius before I completely lose my voice. And Sag, for you, this new moon and this new Mars cycle is happening in your 11th house. So this is all about some seeds of intention that you are either planting yourself, or the universe is planting for you, some sort of initiation in relation to 11th house themes of the group. So this can be friends, friendship groups, online networks, community organizations, clubs, associations, people that are your allies and supporters, that can help you get where you want to go. And it's about your vision for the future. So this is where this new cycle is starting, and Mars is coming in there and giving you the passion and the drive and the will to go on this quest for the next couple of years in this area of life. So this could look like getting involved in an organization that deals with issues around justice and equality and, like social justice, that sort of thing. Taking up the charge there. It could look like you, let's take it on the flip side. Hopefully not like fighting in groups of friends that's you're involved with, or that you encounter in some way, shape, or form. It could be you getting involved in a group that is Martian in some way, shape, or form, like military, police, sports team. These are all kind of Marsy sort of associations. So there could be something that you're involved in that has to, that begins around this time, or there's a call to action there, right? Are you being called in some way to take up the charge as far as those 11th house themes go? And Mars gives you, it could be just like, quite simply, like there could just be a lot of activity. Mars is always out there and kind of very, very driven, right? So there could be a lot of activity that's going on in those groups or associations or what have you. So, okay, so that's for you, Sagittarius. Listen to the intro for all the context and the details. And I'm going to move on to last but not least in this instance, we've got Scorpio. So Scorpio, for you, this new moon and this new Mars cycle is beginning in your 12th house. So it's very behind the scenes and under the surface, and behind closed doors, right, is the 12th house. So whatever new seeds of intention are being planted right now may not be publicly visible. They may be intentions for things that revolve around 12th house themes, like rest, like retreat, like solitude, isolation, convalescence, spiritual life. So, you know, the 12th house speaks to all these themes. It can have to do with even our unconscious. It can have to do with self-sabotaging behaviors. It can have to do with places that are sort of tucked away from the world, like institutions like hospitals and you know, retreat centers and prisons and rehab facilities and you know, places of convalescence, long-term care facilities, these sorts of things. These are all 12th house themes. And so there is something new happening here that you're intending, or, you know, that the universe is intending for you. And the idea is some sense of restoration of balance, because we are talking about Libra here, and harmony and potentially justice. But there may be a fight for that because Mars is there, right? And so Mars is calling you to take action, and to take up the quest here in this area of life. So let's talk in more practical terms. And sometimes that's difficult when we're talking about the 12th house. But to try to give you some practical examples, this could be one of the things that comes to mind is, like, if you're dealing with some sort of self-sabotaging behavior, right? And it may be something that goes on in secret even, that other people don't know about. But it's just something that you're, you know, it's a behavior that you use to cope with unconscious trauma or whatever. And it could be this call to action to kind of to deal with that, to kind of battle those inner demons, so to speak. You know, this could be a good time, frankly, to tackle that, with Mars there, lending you the will and the drive and the courage to do that. But it also could be to take it in a completely different direction. Things like a lot of activity going on around, you know, one of those, you know, places or institutions that we talked about, where, you know, there is, you might be somebody who works in long-term care or something like that, or you work in a prison, or and there's just like, there's a lot going on over the, you know, this next while. What else could it be? There could even be, because sometimes the 12th house speaks to sort of like our blind spots, meaning like what we aren't aware of. And so hopefully it's not, but sometimes it's like things like, there's things going on behind the scenes that we don't know are happening. And in this case, it could be like somebody's going, Mars in the 12th house, somebody's going to bat for you. It could be like that, you know, or it could be somebody is talking aggressively about you behind your back. It could be that too, right? It could go either way, sort of thing. But it also could just be there's a lot of activity going on sort of behind the scenes over this next while. You could be working on something, some kind of project, like Libra-like project, some kind of creative or, you know, project that involves justice or equality, or the written word even, mediation, you know, that is sort of like not necessarily outwardly obvious to everybody right at this point. So that could be going on as well. All right, so I think I've said enough there. That is the horoscope for all 12 signs, and I hope that this was helpful to you. And catch me on my website, astrologymaven.com, as soon as it's ready. But go over there and sign up and get on my list and get my free guide to working with the moon. And you can come join me on Instagram and Facebook until it goes down again. Anyway, yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks' time to talk about the Aries full moon. All right, take good care. Bye for now.